All right, ladies and gentlemen, photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. What are some things? What are some of our objectives? What are some of our goals with dealing with photosynthesis? Number one, you should, by the time you're done with this, you should be able to tell me the equation for photosynthesis. Maybe not by the time we're done with today, but definitely by the time we're done with photosynthesis. Okay? You should be able to tell me where it occurs at. What type of an organism undergoes photosynthesis? You should be able to tell me organelles that are involved in photosynthesis. Okay? So, we need to make sure that by the time we're done with this, our goal is to know the equation of photosynthesis. Know organelles, where it happens. Okay? Knows what kind of organisms that photosynthesis happens in. So, photosynthesis. The process that converts solar energy into chemical energy. Light energy from the sun is converted into chemical energy. Something like glucose, you're going to see. Indirectly or directly, photosynthesis nourishes the entire world. What does that mean, indirectly or directly? Well, directly, who undergoes photosynthesis? Okay? Plants, right? Plants undergo photosynthesis. So directly, plants are nourished by photosynthesis. Are we nourished by photosynthesis? Are we? We are indirectly. Can we make our own food? I didn't say can we grow our own food. Can my body make its own food? No. So indirectly, we need photosynthesis to get our food. All right, to get our food. And you might say, well, we can have a steak. That's not photosynthesis. Where's the cow get its food? Huh? From the plants, right? So even if we eat the steak, we're indirectly getting our nourishment from photosynthesis. So this is pretty important part of our life. We talk about autotrophs. Autotrophs can sustain themselves without eating anything derived from other organisms. They make their own food. An autotroph makes their own food. So, we just discussed plants, right? Are plants autotrophs? Yes. Are we autotrophs? No. We can't make our own food. Okay? We often refer to autotrophs as the term we call producers because they produce their food. They produce organic molecules. Okay? They produce the organic molecules, the glucose, the end product of photosynthesis. How do they do that? Well, they take water and other inorganic molecules. And you're going to learn those inorganic molecules before we're done with photosynthesis. Almost all plants are photoautotrophs, which means that they get their energy from sunlight. They get their energy from the sunlight. That's what the photo is, the light. The light. So a photoautotroph, let's break it down. Photo is the light part. Autotroph means they make their own food. They're producers. So they produce their own food from the light, in this case, the sunlight. Now, down at the bottom here, it says, okay, how do they make the organic molecules? Water and carbon dioxide. Water, carbon dioxide. Here we go. Look at that. We can see the rainbow there. We can see the light shining down on this forest. You suppose there's any photosynthesis going on there? Right here, some plants. They undergo photosynthesis. What about this alga? That's the plural for algae. Does algae undergo photosynthesis? We should know that from Grand Lake, right? We should know that from our lake. Yeah, algae's undergoing photosynthesis. When do we have the most trouble with the lake with algae? During the summer, right? We don't have that much trouble during the winter. It's during the summer that Grand Lake has its algae blooms. Here's a guy. It's called a euglena. That is a protist, a single cell organism that undergoes photosynthesis. Cyanobacteria undergo photosynthesis. Look how small they are. 40, this right here is 40 micrometers. That's pretty doggone small, the scale of that picture. So that cyanobacteria is a really small. Here's some purple sulfur bacteria that photosynthesize. Heterotroph. A heterotroph is what we are. We are heterotrophs. We must obtain our organic material from other organisms. And we can literally trace back everything, like I said, to photosynthesis. Okay? Do we eat plants? I sure do. Okay, I sure do. I went to Hothead today for lunch. Got some salad on my bowl of whatever they call it. Chicken bowl. Got some salad on it. That's a plant, right? See, what else did I throw on there? How about some onions? Probably got onion breath right now. Okay, green peppers. You think green peppers photosynthesize? Okay, what else did I have? Jalapenos. Banana peppers. Those guys, they photosynthesize? Absolutely. Absolutely. So, a heterotroph must obtain their organic material from a different source. They cannot make it on their own. They can't make their own food. Okay? Heterotrophs are what we call consumers. Okay? We have different layers that we'll talk about later on in the year. We'll talk about primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. We'll build food webs, all kinds of good stuff later on. Chloroplast. You ever heard of the chloroplast? Now, don't tell me you haven't heard of that, Brandon. Okay? We just talked about cell structure before we did cell processes. I guarantee you have a foldable of a chloroplast in your notebook right now, right? 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 The chloroplast is the site of photosynthesis. The major location of photosynthesis is the leaf of the plant. 1/2 million. 1/2 million chloroplasts per square millimeter. Now, how big is a square millimeter? Really, really small, right? 1/2 million of these chloroplasts a square millimeter. That's a lot of chloroplasts on one leaf. The green color of the chloroplast is due from a pigment called chlorophyll. Chlorophyll. Okay? So chlorophyll is the green pigment from the chloroplast. You just read a Newsella article, didn't you, about why leaves change colors? Correct? So, right now, are most of the leaves, are we seeing the chlorophyll? No, because we're not seeing, they're turning the pretty colors, my mom says. Oh, look how pretty those leaves are on that tree. Okay? They're red and they're yellow. Yeah, it's leaves, it's a tree. I'm not a big fall person because that means it's getting colder out. But are we seeing green leaves? Can we see green still? Yeah. The grass is still pretty green. Okay? Some trees, not all the trees lose their leaves and change the colors at the same time, do they? There's still some green out there. So we can still see some chlorophyll. We can still see the chloroplasts that are working. However, they're starting to change over. Yeah. Why doesn't an evergreen tree change colors? I would have to think, let me think on that, okay? Let me get back with you on that, because I don't know if I'm totally positive, but I'll get you an answer on that. Light energy absorbed by chlorophyll drives the synthesis of the organic molecules in the chloroplast. So, the chlorophyll is what absorbs the light energy needed for photosynthesis. Where does photosynthesis occur at? Huh? Just somebody tell me. Where? Something. I can't hear. Leaves? Okay. Leaves would be an answer. Be more specific now. What part of the leaf? Chloroplast. Chloroplast. Okay, and that's what this last line is here. This last bullet. Okay? The synthesis of organic materials or organic molecules in the chloroplast. Water and carbon dioxide enter the leaf through microscopic pores that we call stomata. Stomata. They're little openings on the leaf. I'm going to have to check. We used to do a lab where we looked at some stomata. I don't know if I still have the slides for that because we made them our own. We'll see if we do that lab. We might look at the stomata. We'll see some on the diagrams we do with stomata, though. I don't know if we'll see any actual under the microscope. I'll have to check to see if I still have those slides. The problem right now is it's getting down to the time where we're not having too much photosynthesis going on because the leaves are falling out of the trees, right? So do you think there's many stomata on the trees? Well, where are the stomata at? Where's the stomata at? The leaf. If there's no leaves, is there stomata? No. No. Chloroplasts are found mainly in cells of the mesophyll, an interior tissue of the leaf. The mesophyll layer of the leaf. That is where we're going to find the majority of the chloroplasts. Typically, a mesophyll cell will have about 30 to 40 chloroplasts in it, one cell. Okay, so stop and think about the cells that we made, earlier, the diagrams. If those were true to form, one of those cells would have 30 to 40 chloroplasts. The chlorophyll, the green pigment, the chlorophyll, is in the membranes of what we call the thylakoids. Thylakoids may be stacked into different columns that are called grana. Now, how I think of these thylakoids and how I think of grana. Let's pretend, here's my analogy. Let's pretend I have a stack of quarters. I have a stack of quarters, all right? Those stack of quarters would be the grana. Okay? Each individual quarter would be a thylakoid. So, each quarter is a thylakoid. When I stack all the quarters, it becomes the grana. Okay, you might also see this as granum. Grana is plural, granum is the singular. The chloroplasts also contain stroma. Stroma, and I got to move my little thing here, which is a dense fluid. Now, one thing, folks, people get confused all the time. Stroma, which is the dense fluid, and stomata. What was a stomata? The pore opening. People get those confused all the time. Make sure that you don't confuse those. Stroma is the dense fluid. The stomata is the opening that the gases are exchanged. Here is a picture. Okay? This very picture right here you're going to put in your interactive notebook. Okay? This guy right here you're going to put in your interactive notebook. But let's break this down. Here is a leaf that is in our tree. If I take this little portion of the leaf, you can see here is the stomata. Here's 3 different stomata which are letting oxygen out, carbon dioxide in. Here is what we call the mesophyll layer. Each one of these things is a mesophyll cell right there. How many chloroplasts per cell? 30 to 40. So each one of these cells right here has 30 to 40 chloroplasts. So there's a lot of chloroplasts in one leaf. Here we come. Here is one individual cell. See all those little green spheres in there? You know what those are? Chloroplast. So each one of these little green dots here is a chloroplast. And some of them are stacked up so we can't even see. We can only see one layer because this is a cross section. Now I go even further down. Here is the chloroplast. Look at these. Here are my stacked quarters. So if that's a stacked quarter, what is that? The stacked quarters were the grana for plural. So this would be a granum, a singular, because it's one stacked quarter. And each individual quarter is a thylakoid. Okay? Now this is actual, right here is an actual electron microscope view of a chloroplast. Now you see these little dark areas right here? Those are the stacked thylakoids. So these dark patches in here are different grana. So each one of those is a stacked thylakoid. Now look how many stacked thylakoids we have in one single chloroplast. There's a bunch of them, aren't there? There is a bunch of them. Here's a blown up picture. All right, there's a blown up picture. I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think what we're going to do now is I am going to give you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a diagram of a chloroplast that looks similar to this one up here. I'm going to leave this up here because you're going to cut this and put this into your interactive notebook. And I'm saying this goes on page 61. Okay? So this goes on page 61. You're going to cut, paste, and color this. But before you start your coloring, I want you to label it. Okay? I want you to get it labeled. We understand what we should be doing the remainder of the period? Awesome.